Jason Tower here again. We're going to work on sketch-based bolt circle and also using hole wizard. I got a couple different ways that you can achieve this. First of all, we're going to go up to File, left click. We're going to click on left click New, left click on Part, say OK, left click. Going to make a quick circle. Going to use the top plane, going to left click that to select it. Then I'm going to go up here to circle. I'm going to click on that, left click. I'm going to lock it to the center, just going to drag it out. Let's go ahead and put a dimension on that. I think we can do it in several ways. You can type in down here, highlight this box, and type 5 inches. Or you can put a smart dimension on it. I like doing smart dimensions because then when I open the sketch I have the dimension right there in front of me. So I'm going to change that down to 5-inch diameter and we're going to say OK. Then we're going to do a feature. We're going to do an extruded boss. And I'd like to usually go in the opposite direction there. We're going to do a blind and I'm going to give it a dimension of 2 inches. Maybe we'll change that to like 1.5 inches, 1.5. Now anytime you want to, this can be a calculator. Let's say you don't know the decimal equivalent to 3/8. You should be able to type 3 divided by 8 and it should give you the 375 decimal equivalent. Most of these dialog boxes will allow you to do the math right inside the dialog box. Again, all you have to do is like let's say you don't know what 13/16 is, so you go 13 divided by 16, and that'll give you the 812 dimension. So let's just leave it there and just say OK. Left click on the OK box, and that creates a solid plate. There's a couple of ways. Let's first off start with the hole wizard. We got to put a hole in there. I'm going to do a tapped hole, and I want to do a bolt circle around this circle. And at first I'll show you one way to do it. I don't know if this is the best way, but I'll show you a couple of ways to control the bolt circle. So let's go ahead and go up here to hole wizard, which is under features, left click, go up under hole wizard, drop down on the arrow, left click on it, click hole wizard, left click on that. And it gives us all different types of hole types we can do. We can do like a counter bore, we can do a counter sink, we can do a straight up blind hole or through hole. Then we have a straight tap, which is the one we'll be using, that feature. Then here we got a tapered tap, so an MPT tap. Then here we have a customizable counter bore hole. These counter bores up here are basically AST standards of what, let's say, a 3/8 16 Allen screw socket head cap screw. This is the size in the machinist Bible that you should make your holes to. This would be a counter bore that you could customize. And then we also have here the counter bore slot. We have a slot, countersink slot, excuse me, and just a regular slot. So you can pick each one of these as a different attribute. So for right now I'm going to do a threaded hole. I click on that, straight tap, left click. Then I drop down here to the size, and now I pick a size. Should we do 1/13? So roll down here to 1/13. Where you at? There you are. So that's 1/2 inch diameter, 13 threads per inch. Through all is what I'm going to do. Not going to do a blind hole. If you wanted to do a blind hole or up to next, you do blind and then you can put the dimension in here. Or in this case, I'm going to do through all. So now I pick a position, the position tab up here, I left click on, and I just roll over here and just click a spot on that face. First time it clicks, it picks the face or the plane, and then the second time I'm going to just drop it in there. I'll dimension it later. I'm going to say OK to that, and there's our one threaded hole. What's nice about the hole wizard is that all this information that's in here, when we go to make a drawing, when we go and pull up the hole call out on the drawing page or the drawing side of things, it'll have all the information already there, so we don't have to, you know, retype it all in. It's going to pull the data off of this information here and then display it in the drawing. So now we have a hole, and we want to do a bolt circle. Let's say 6 holes on a circle. So one way we can do that is we go to Sketch. Actually, we got to go to Features, and then we go to Linear Patterns here. We're not doing a linear pattern like a checkerboard. We're going to do a circle pattern. So we'll click that feature. It kind of knows what we're picking because it was the last thing. If it wasn't that, then you could change, left click in here, you could clear this selection, and then you can pick that hole again, and it'll pick that feature. Another way to do it is clear selection. If you come up here, you can drop down the feature tree with this arrow, and you could have all your feature tree, and I'll just click the half 13 tapped hole. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. I'm going to do equal spacing. I'm going to do 360 degrees, so all the way around the circle. I'm going to do six holes total, including the one that's here. So that's a total of 6 only. Then in the direction of rotation, you left click in there, highlight that box, and you can now pick this outside diameter, and it creates 6 holes. All you do is say OK, and as you see in the feature tree, you have the original hole that we got all the data to, and then the next one's just if you edit this feature, if you were to come over here and right click on it, it's got the edit feature. We can change how many holes we have. Let's say we go to 7 and then say OK. Now we have 7 holes. Very simple to make a bolt circle. The one thing that people seem to get a little confused on is the way these holes are made is you have 3 items underneath. If you click the down arrow, left click this arrow, it gives you all these sketches and this information. Well, the first sketch, you can see highlights the center point. So that sketch is designed to tell us where that center point is located. This next sketch is actually the cross-sectional profile of the hole. And then what it does is it basically does a revolve cut to make the hole. Now let's go ahead and go back here to half 13. I clicked on it, highlighted it, and then, or right click on it, and then it comes up with edit feature. I'm going to show you, there's no chamfers on here. It says bottoming tap hole, straight pipe, tapped hole. There should be some end conditions here. I can do a near-sided countersink and a far-sided countersink. So that puts a countersink on both sides, and then I can make that dimension whatever I choose. Let's see, it's a half 13, so let's go 525. Looks like the standard was 550 or default value. So I'm going to change them, and then also you could change this from 90 degrees or 60 degrees, depending on which you would choose to have as a chamfer. So with that done, now if we go back to this sketch, the cross-sectional sketch of that hole and how it's built, you can see that the chamfers are in the profile or in the sketch profile. So when it does the revolve, it cuts the chamfers in that way. So, but for the most part, I'm not too worried about the profile of the hole. It's in there, it's got the data. Here's your cosmetic thread defaults. I probably don't mess with that too much. This is the big one I'm concerned with, this first sketch. If you right click on that and you edit that sketch, you will have one asterisk that's laying in the middle. And I can move that around. If I move it out to the edge here and I go ahead and rebuild it, it moves all the holes. Because again, it's built off that first one, and then the circle pattern's built off of that information. Go back up here. First of all, what I want to do now is I want to make that normal to that, so it's square to my eye. So I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to use this little plane with the arrow, normal to, and that brings us right up here. Now this is this asterisk is our original sketch, and I kind of like to move it up to this position, 12 o'clock, to start there. So I'm going to go over here, right click, and then left click on the edit sketch, and it just gives us this dot. I'm just going to left click and drag it over towards the center. Then I'm going to create a center line or construction line. From the center, I'm going to lock it in. And then I'm going to left click. You can't see the yellow box, but that says vertical, and if you move off a little bit, it goes away. Then it comes back. It's right underneath the pencil or pointer. So I want that to be yellow vertical. And then I'm going to draw, nope, don't need a line there. I only need the one line. And then I'm going to force this center point to be locked to this line so it's right in the center of the part. And we do that by Sketch tab, then you add relation, and it's going to ask for the entities. What do you want to lock together? So I'm going to pick the center point of the threaded hole and the line, and now I got both of those items, and it's going to say what? Midpoint, coincidental, or fixed. We don't want midpoint because I'm going to control the diameter. Coincidental is what I want. I just want it to be locked to that line, somewhere's on that line. And fixed means it wouldn't move from the position I'm in. So, or both items would be fixed. And there's no way you can dimension them or move them. So I'm going to say coincidental and see how it moved that point over. So now it's locked. I'm going to say left click OK to that. Now it's locked to this line. I can't move left or right with it, but I can move up and down. Then I'm going to go over here, left click on Smart Dimension underneath the Sketch tab, and I'm going to go from the center to this dot to the asterisk, or the center of the tapped hole, and then I would make my dimension like 2-inch radius. We could double click on that and we'll change that to, that's 2.125. So now I controlled, as you can see, this line is black. The asterisk is black. I don't know if it shows up on video real well, but when items are black like that, or entities are black like that, that means they're fully defined. And it even says down here, fully defined. So that tells me that I can't put any more dimensions onto it. So I'm going to say OK to that. I'm going to now rebuild it. And it's going to update the rest of the holes to go in line with that. Now if you wanted to have that off center, you go back here to this sketch, right click, and then left click on Edit Sketch. And I could add another center line, not a line. If you run a line, it's considered an entity. If you run a center line, it's like a construction line. It's just there to drive what you want to do. So if I put in another one, what I'd have to do then is click on the center point, and as you can see, there's some existing relations. Distance I want to keep, but the coincidental I don't. So I'm going to say delete that, not delete all, just delete that one. Now if you see that asterisk went blue again, which means now it's free to move off that line. So I'm going to hover over it, left click, hold down the left mouse button, and I'm going to drive it over to this one. See, now sometimes the snaps on, you could do an automatic snap, but my whole purpose here is to show you how to go through the process of adding a relation. So right now it's just out in space. So I'm going to go ahead and add a relation under Sketch tab again. I'm going to add a relation. It already knows I had that point picked up, and you can see it's blue. I'm going to pick up this line now, and I'm going to say coincidental. So now it's locked to that line. But as you see, they're both still blue lines. The asterisk is blue, and the line is blue. That means it's not fully defined. And what I mean by that, I can still move this line. See how that center point follows? So now what I can do is I can add a smart dimension under the Sketch tab, and I can do the degrees or the angle to control it. If I want to start at 12.5 degrees off of center, that's where it'll start. And then I can say OK, and it'll still give me the holes when I rebuild it, but it'll be 12.5 degrees off center. And that would be useful if you're timing with a slot or some type of hole out here. You may have to time and lock those together. So that is one way of doing hole sketches. Now the most common way, or at least the way I've done it, is usually I have a center line in the middle of the part. But since the way we built this boss with this sketch here, we didn't have a center line. So I'm going to pick a plane. I know I'm already on the top plane going down, and I know that I'm going to left click this button here. I'm going to pull this sketch up. I'm going to edit it, right click, and then left click this. I know that my center, okay, I'm going to bring it normal too. I know I clicked the center point and locked it to the center triad in Solidworks. So that's a fixed point. So I'm going to know that if I built it on the top plane, my right plane is going to go right through the center of it. And then on the right plane, I'm going to draw a line so that we have something to reference to use it as an axis rotational point. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild. So like I said, I'm going to build in there on the right plane. I'm going to draw a line, a center line. I'm going to come right off the triad and lock it in. You can't see it, but there's a little yellow thing that says coincidental. And I'm going to drag it out. And again, this is not locked vertically or horizontally to that surface. As I bring it down to center more, you'll see a little yellow thing behind the pencil, and that'll lock it in vertical, which should be black line when I'm done with it. I should have to do no more relations to it. And it is. It's a black line, and if we want to verify that, we can just click on the line, and it says right here, vertical. It is vertical. Looks horizontal because of the way I got spun. But if you were to right click on here and go normal 2, you can see why it's vertical. So that's a vertical line locked in, fully defined. And I'm just going to leave it like that and go rebuild. It's just going to be a reference sketch for me in the future. So let's go back to Hole Wizard, or Hole, that's under Features tab, left click, Hole Wizard. I'm going to create another hole. I'm going to click on the Hole Wizard. I'm going to do another, let's do a countersunk hole. Okay. Let's do 1/2 inch. I can pick whatever size I want. We can do 3/8 also. It's asking me, I could do custom sizing of the taper. If this wants to do 100 degrees, I'm going to do a 60 degree. I'm going to do the width of that's the width of the countersink diameter. What is it, 0.762? And then the diameter through is 397. Let's go with 400. Or you could use whatever they got in here as defaults. You could do a far side countersink on the other side of the part and tell it what you want for that dimension. Now remember, all of this dimension, when you go to drawings, you'll do a hole call out, and it'll give you all the nomenclature and the drawing to fill in those blanks. So it makes it very easy to make a drawing on the drawing side. So it looks good. I'm not too concerned about the size right now. Then I'm going to left click position, and I'm going to grab a spot right there. Again, the first click was to click the plane I was building on, and then the second click is just dropping that hole on that surface. Now I could do more holes. If I was doing like a square or something like that, or I was only doing 2 holes, I could drop 2 holes and then do the dimensioning off of that, and but in this case I want to do a circle, so I only need 1. So I'm going to say okay to that, and it makes a countersunk hole with the dimensions we want. Now here's the difference. I'm going to come back over here, click on the left click on the arrow, and then I'm going to edit this. Not yet. What we want to do is create our 4 holes in the center. So I'm going to go back up here under features, and I'm going to do a circular pattern again. And it's asking me what feature, so this time it didn't pick it up, but I'll just pick it up here. Now it picked that up. I'm going to do 4 only, so I'm going to change this at 4. But here's the difference now. This is what I'm talking about. Before I was able to pick up this outer circle to make it work. Well, this time I want to force it around this axis, this center line that I made, and it's going to rotate around this center point. So click on that, and then I'll highlight this, and as you can see, it did the exact same thing. It spun it around that center point. So now I have my 4 holes. Now let's see if we can drive the first hole in its right position. So again, if you don't see it, you got to hit this little arrow on the side here with your left mouse key, and then you only have 2 sketches because we don't have a threaded hole now. So you have the sketch of where it's located, and then you have the sketch of the actual profile that it did a revolve cut around this axis in order to make the profile. And what I want to do is edit this sketch, the position sketch. Well, let's make a normal 2 first. It'll make it easier for me to orientate it. Now remember, if this is normal 2, this is where we drove the other one up on this hole, this threaded hole here, and I think it was 12.5 degrees off center. Now this hole is over here. I'm going to right click on this, edit, left click on edit that. The holes go away. See in the feature tree too, since the circle pattern is built off of this, it can't build a circle pattern. So it just suppresses it until we get done with what we're doing inside this sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and move that up to my center point. I'm going to draw another center line, and I'm going to make that horizontal or vertical, whichever it is. Looks like it was vertical. I'm going to use the escape key here to get out of the line, and then I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to right click and delete that entity. Don't need it. Remember, this is black. The line is black, so it's fully defined. If I click on it, it'll tell me that it's vertical, so we're locked in place because we're locked on the center triad, which doesn't move. It's locked in space in SolidWorks. So that's completely defined. Now I'm going to do is bring this to center by using a relation, add relation, this center point to the line, coincidental. Coincident. Alright, so now if we click off here, now it's still blue, the asterisk is blue because we don't have a dimension driving how far off center we are. So I'm going to put a smart dimension, left click on that. I'm going to click the dot, the center point, and the center point of the part. That looks like it's going to be too far away, so let's put it 1.312. I don't like that either. I think we'll go to 1.437. And again, I think what we can do is, if you don't know that, you can do 1 plus, if you use the shift key, I believe, and you could do the 7 divided by 16 and then close it, and it should give you 1 3/8. So it gives me 1.44. No, 437, excuse me, that's right. And again, when we go to here, it only gives us 2 decimals, and I think in previous videos I showed you how to change the default on that. Maybe at the end of the video I'll show you a little bit. So we're at, it says 4.4, but it's actually 4.37. Okay, so that locks in that dimension. We rebuild, and it's going to put 4 circles equally spaced, so they're 90 degrees apart. So there's 2 ways we can do bolt circle using the hole wizard. And like I said, the precision of this whole part, what you do is come down to this area here, and you right click, go to document properties, you go under dimension, primary precision. I want to change that to 3. That's going to change the properties for this document. This is not system options, it's just this document. So when I save it, and let's say we go back here to edit that sketch again, the position sketch, now you can see it says 438 when it's actually 437.5, but it rounds it up because our primary precision is 3 decimal points. Now if we wanted to, we'll go back and rebuild. We can go back down here, right click, document properties, dimensions, and we could do 5 decimals if we wanted to. Now if we go over here to edit this sketch, it'll show us 5 decimals. We'll go ahead and rebuild that. That's your basic bolt circle using feature-based patterns. There is a sketch pattern up here, but since with the hole wizard the way it is, it's more of a feature, so that's probably how I would build it. If I wanted to, I could just click on this surface, create a circle. It's not a hole, it's just a circle. And then in sketch base, see, got the same linear sketch pattern or circular sketch pattern. And there it shows off the center point. It already kind of knows that. Yes, that's what I want. Let's see, probably put 5 in instead of 4. Okay. 360 degrees. And you can say okay. Now if I move this around, I can kind of control. Let's go to the center here. So now this is 5 sketches. We still haven't made a feature. Okay? So if you rebuild this, it's only a sketch on there. It's not a feature yet. But I can take and left click on this, highlight this, go up to features, and then I could do an extruded cut, which then we can say if we want a blind hole, let's say we don't want to go all the way through, we only got to go through 0.5. Now we have a hole that's blind, it's not all the way through, but it makes all 5 features at the same time off those sketches. The tricky part about this is, if you can see in the feature tree here, you can easily see that there's a sketch pad or a circle pattern feature. This one, a little more difficult to understand because you go to the sketch and you edit the sketch, you're going to probably only have 1 dimension in a line like we did before, and you're going to be like, well, I can't control these, you know, they're all locked together. So you got to figure out how to get to that pattern. And see how I did that? I just clicked on one of the holes and it came up here with there's a pattern in relation. You can right click on that and you can edit the pattern. And there you got all your information to change if you want to make that 10 holes, you know, or whatever you want to change the where it starts, the diameter, because you can actually do the diameter again. I'd rather do a smart dimension, So when I open it up, I see it, versus here, you know, we could go 0.812, and we could push that circle out. And again, that's radius, not diameter. So now we have 10 holes, and if we rebuild, then we'll have 10 holes in there. Hope this helps. Like and share. I'm going to end this video right now, and working on the next one.